So, hi, Yemisi. Welcome to what I feel like is my podcast, because this is how I always start my podcast. But today it is actually my first interview, my kind of speedy video slot for the club, which all my members will know about. For this first of my new Black Lives Matter programme that I will be rolling out in the club, I wanted to start really just by speaking to somebody who has experienced discrimination herself. A little bit of background, personal background on Yemisi Mokuolu, which is that Yemisi went to university with my brother. She is a social entrepreneur and the founder of Hatch Ideas and Hatch Africa. And I was talking to my brother about kind of everything that I'm doing in the club at the moment, and he said, you know, you must speak to Yemisi. She's definitely experienced discrimination along the way. And in the least naive way possible, it really struck me, not because I didn't think that you would have experienced discrimination, but having known you with your huge personality and your laugh and your just, the things that I kind of remember about you are just this passion and energy. It just really struck me that, you know, all types of Black men and women are experiencing discrimination, even when you are such a kind of go-getting, energetic, magnetic person like you are and like I remember you being. And it really struck me that you would have experienced that. So thank you, number one. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your business and how you got started, and then we can just have a quick chat. Well, it's a huge subject.
Yeah.
Some of your experiences so that some of our members can really just hear it from you.
Yeah, thank you so much, actually, I feel really honoured to be part of the first podcast in this series of conversation. It's an ongoing thing. You know, so when I first started, I'm very fortunate enough, I come from an entrepreneurial family. And so my family gave me the gift of education. We're really strong on education. So for me, it wasn't a massive leap of the imagination for me to be able to fulfill, you know, my promise of myself and do the things I wanted to do. I just didn't realize that other people had other interests and other interesting barriers they wanted to throw in my way and obstacles. So, you know, I went and did the career process, you know, did university, got some really good work experience, all of the things that you're supposed to do. But then, unfortunately, as soon as this is still going on. This is 20 years ago, but it's still going on. Unfortunately, the system is specifically set up to disenfranchise people based on the colour of their skin and their economic background. We know this, but we still do nothing about it. And I think that's where I kind of, this conversation isn't important to know about me. It's important to know about all of ourselves. It's important to know about the role we all play. I mean, you know, I've had dinner parties with people where they openly admit that they'll throw away CVs into the bin if it has a slightly foreign name. And, you know, I've had to challenge friends of friends. Oh, I just told them that I would be reporting them. And, you know, and I told everyone at the dinner party that this is exactly what you shouldn't tolerate of your friends. And it's not funny. And then I also told them very clearly that they're not my friend and I don't want to have anything to do with them until they change. So I think we have to be really intolerant about things like this. We wouldn't want this to happen to our children. So we can't sit there laughing at dinner parties when we hear things that are blatant discrimination. Yeah. And then the other side of it, and this is why it's important with the work that I do, is that I've created situations to support people if they want to be more inclusive. So we have a whole set of tools. So if you're like sitting in the workplace and you're not able to have those conversations because the culture of your company doesn't allow you to have any type of conversation, let alone ones about race, you know, we're able to actually support people who want to make sure that they have as inclusive a work environment as humanly possible. Because I know there's a lot of people who are disenfranchised within their workplace and they have to sit there and watch some of the most heinous bullying that goes on, that it just needs to stop, really. So Hatch Ideas not only do we do professional development, we do business development as well, you know, because unfortunately there's a lot of people whose experience has been so traumatizing that they can't actually exist in the workplace anymore. And so they have to become entrepreneurs. And the truth is they're not entrepreneurs. They're just really good people who are not welcome inside of the world of work in the UK. And so they have to come up with their own small enterprise in order for them to sustain themselves and to achieve their vision and the promise that they have in themselves. So we create a lot of training programs and a lot of understanding about the fact that we attract a lot of these people and support them on their journey towards being the graphic designer they've always wanted to be, or being the, you know, having that restaurant they've always wanted, or being that accountant that they've always wanted, you know. I know there was a lot said in that, but yeah.
No. I mean, wow, blown away. But have you seen systemic racism and discrimination be overcome in certain work situations? Like, have you seen the change happen? Because I think that's where we're standing now. You know, so many people have been moved by the Black Lives Matter movement, obviously hugely overdue, but we are where we are. And I know that people, I've been having lots of conversations, you know, people really want to make change, but I think a lot of them feel that, how am I going to begin? You know, where I work, it's so endemic, and I don't feel like this change can ever happen. Have you experienced a positive change, and can you give us a little bit on how that's happened?
I hear what you're saying, but I don't think we're ready for that answer yet. I think we really need to focus more on doing more and doing better. The answer is not a yes or a no, because it's a process. So there are environments whereby, so for instance, we did this inclusion workshop for a network of theatres in the west of England, okay? Now, we've seen a lot of positive movement, but then we've seen some really negative things happen. Yep. It's not that it's cancelled itself out. It's just, that's just the way change works, isn't it? You know, it's not there's no environment whereby it's like, oh yeah, we fixed it. We're not there yet.
A linear process. Yeah.
We're not there yet. And I think the intention anyway, as humans, is it's an ongoing process. I mean, even if we look at female equality in the workplace, you know, disability rights, you know, look, what people don't understand about the Black Lives Matter movement is that until Black Lives Matter, right, then we can't talk about anything else, all right? Because fundamentally it's wrong to discriminate against someone because of the tone of their complexion. It's just madness. So if we can't actually, as just normal thinking human beings, get past that, how can we get past some of the more horrible structural things like disability and and sexuality and religion? Okay, so until we can start, so I guess in response to what you're saying, the intention is there are different things that are going on. Got to make sure that we support people in the workplace to be able to create inclusive environments, to be able to introspect as a company and be able to challenge themselves in a really safe way and think about what is it that we have created as a culture that means that people can't progress because of the color of their skin. Why is it that we have no Black people in our office? That means that you have a problem. If you have a problem whereby people aren't applying to you, and you're looking and you're thinking, there are no Black people applying, then you have a problem. Then you have to start to seek professional support to help you to overcome the deep-seated messaging that must be that your organization is transmitting that shows itself as a barrier. I just recently, I'm having some email conversations with a film financing company in Canada right now. As part of our professional development, we work with a lot of creative people, and we're currently right now trying to support more Black producers in the space. And the thing is, with the film industry, in order for you to advance, you need to get your first credit. A lot of Black producers can't get their first credit. Then you have the disparity and it continues, yeah? So you'd love to see the emails I'm having, because these people are really wonderful people, but every single email they send me creates another block that I have to overcome. Instead of them coming up with the solution, and create, they don't even realize because they've
For
been
example,
programmed.
what? So how is that presented?
So I sent an email, and all it was that what is it called? Problem. Your criteria is such that we've already had a conversation about this. Your criteria is such that it means that first time only people with that have had one credit in the bank are allowed to apply for the funding for their film. Okay, we get that. The truth is, a lot of Black producers don't have that first credit. What can we do to support them to get that first credit? I would be grateful for a call with you so that we can brainstorm. I thought that was pretty straightforward. And you've got to understand, I've got historical conversations with these people. This is not like an out of the blue. And the email back was really sweet. Oh my goodness, this is, there's not really much we can do because, the criteria was set by someone else. And, but what we can do is we can extend the application process deadline so that if you can try and find, a producer, then they can apply. And so I just wrote back exactly what I said in the first email, but made it much more to the point and much clearer and less kind of opaque, yeah, like, so I'm free next week. Let's have a call and let's brainstorm like what we can do to help producers get their first credit. So, until a level of empathy or I don't know what it is actually, because I'm not a psychologist. I can't actually understand what the mindset is that would stop someone from actually supporting another person and lending their expertise and their experience. I mean, both of us have created our businesses based on that. It's something we can't comprehend.
But that's exactly what this bundle that's going live this week is on unconscious bias. Yeah. We don't even realize that we hold these biases, and that's got to be the starting point. Is actually self-checking every single decision you make and every single email you send, and looking at it objectively and saying, is there some type of bias in here that I can't even see for myself? And I think that is not defending anyone who is a discriminatory, but it's just stripping it back to that point where we've been brought up. It's so long standing that we don't even realize that we have this bias ourselves. And I think, it's hugely depressing. And while you were talking, my next kind of question was going to be, how do you stay so positive? Like, how do you continue to find the energy personally to support businesses and individuals when you are constantly up against these kind of seemingly anodyne responses where it's just like, yeah, sure, extend the date, find someone else. And it's like, you're totally missing the point here. I mean, how do you personally find the energy to continue?
I'll be really honest with you. I don't really, I'm definitely suffering a lot. And I think that what people have to understand is all these microaggressions are killing people. There's a lot of people in my field who have left the country, who have left their careers, who have left themselves emotionally and mentally, If I told you some of the examples of workplace racism that I've been through, I think you'd physically want to go and do harm to those people. And it's to that extreme and that level. So no, I'm not necessarily, I'm fortunate enough in the sense that I lean on all of the resilience training that I give out to other people. And that's why, I started Hatch in the first place, to be able to support people, to be able to weather the storm. Right now we're doing these like business breakfast sessions, just to be able to give people some extra resilience. I meditate, so, I can't have as much sugar as I want just because unfortunately it affects my moods too much and it makes me really annoyed because I'd love to just gorge myself on chocolates and cake. But
nothing else works.
But so it's but I think I'm a horribly hopeful person and optimistic. So I've been saying to people, even though I feel heavy, I always feel hopeful, and I think that just comes from that's just the the cocktail that is Yemisi that keeps me going, kind of thing. And we mustn't forget my family background. I come from an incredibly powerful academic family whose whole history's been about debating social activism, supporting people through nursing. My dad's, so I'm very, very fortunate in the sense that I have had this, I guess, family environment to grow up in. I very, very proudly Nigerian, very proudly Yemisi, very proudly who I am. And, that was something that was nurtured and developed within me by my parents. So, imagine so many people listening to this, regardless of the color of their skin, wouldn't have had that kind of supporting environment, So when I'd say things like inclusion, I mean it in its broadest sense of the word. And I think that we have to be very mindful about how, I know what you were saying about unconscious bias. I think that's what it is. That's what being a human is. And so the frameworks that I enjoy more is about recognizing that we all have bias. But what we do is we put in infrastructure that means that we have a whole complex network of biases all together. So if you have a boardroom and it's all people of one certain skin color, gender, or sexual orientation, okay, they're all coming with their experiences and very similar bias, yeah? But if you then, put multiple biases around the table, that's when, the energy changes, and then that's when you come up with solutions that are more inclusive. So I'm not saying, oh my God, people have to be like all holding hands and singing Kumbaya.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, we just have to create situations. And sometimes it's, right now, it is almost as arbitrary as just looking around and just seeing, right, how diverse is the playing fields that I am in, and then having to take, it's a really boring thing to do, but you know what, we've got to start somewhere. And then once that happens, doing conversations like this, and like what you're doing, which I really respect, is actually listening, and knowing that through listening, you are being heard. And I think people don't realize that, that through listening, people are noticing that there's a lot of work that's being done, and that's really appreciated.
And interestingly, I've been talking to lots of Black women specifically, because that's my network mainly, and Black coaches, and listening has come up repeatedly as a theme of let's just start by listening. We don't need, we don't need more, but we need to start with that. And that's interesting that you came back to that too, and I think it's true. And I've definitely learnt, because I am a listener, but I'm also someone who, as a journalist by trade, I like to question and, try and create solutions, but it isn't about that right now. And I think it's important to make that point, that the action that you can take really to start with is listening, both to yourself and to others. Well, thank you so much, Yemisi. I'm not going to hold you up because I know you've got amazing work that you're doing and generally manage. But yeah, I feel honoured that you have shared some of your story with us today, and here's to all of us working in a more inclusive environment and being more open in our own thoughts too. So thank you so much.
So welcome.
Take care, Yemisi.
Thank you so much. Bye. Thank you. Bye.